Uh, I want pie. Hello everyone, my name's Stonsey Boy and welcome back to Reading with Stonsey. Today we are reading pages 193 to 211, chapters 19 and 20, or 18 pages in total, of Scythe. I want pie because today is pie, 314. But Stonsey, last time you did a recording video, it was, the end of February. Oh, I know. I've been procrastinating. And I don't know why. I love doing audiobooks and I just haven't been in the mood, Haven't been in the mojo of the JoJo. 18 pages today, so shouldn't be that bad. All right. So, without further ado, let's begin. Chapter 19. A terrible thing to do. Citra wasn't sure what possessed her to bring up the question. She had to ask the conclave. Perhaps there was unexpected closeness she felt to Scythe after seeing her feed the grieving family and truly listen to their stories about the man she had gleaned. The night Scythe came to Citra's room with clean sheets. They made her bed together. And just as they finished, Citra said, "On conclave, you accused me of lying." "You were," Scythe said. How did you know?" Scythe didn't offer a smile, but she didn't offer a judgment either. "When you lived nearly 200 years, some things are obvious." She tossed Citra a pillow, and Citra stuffed it into a pillowcase. "I didn't push that girl down the stairs," Citra said. "I suspected as much." Citra now clutched the pillow. As if it were alive, she would suffocated it. "It didn't push her down the stairs," Citra repeated. "I pushed her in front of a speeding truck." Citra sat down, turning away from Scythe. She looked at the woman in the face, and now she regretted having to confess this dark secret from her childhood. "If the Grand Dame of Death sees you as a monster, what type of monster must you truly be?" "What a terrible thing to do," said the Scythe, but her voice was even, not shocked. "Was she killed?" "Instantly," Citra admitted. "Of course, she got back in school 3 days later, but didn't change what I'd done. And the worst thing was, no one knew. People thought she had tripped, and all the other kids were laughing, because you know how funny it is when someone gets deadish by accident. But it wasn't an accident. No one knew. No one saw me do it. And when she came back, she didn't even know." Citra forced herself to look at the Grand Dame of Death, who sat in the chair across the room and gazing at Citra, who had invasive gray eyes. "You asked me the worst thing I've ever done," Citra said. "Now you know." Scythe didn't speak right away. She sat there, listening to the moment linger. "Well," Scythe finally said, "we're going to have to do something about that." Rhonda Flowers was in the middle of the mid-afternoon snack when the doorbell rang. She didn't think anything of it. A few moments later, when she looked up at her mother standing in the kitchen threshold and looked at the object pain on their face, it was clear that something was very wrong. They want to see you," her mother announced. Rhonda slurped her ramen noodles that were dangling from her mouth and got up. "Who's they?" Her mother didn't answer. Instead, she threw up her arms around Rhonda, giving her a bone-crushing hug, and melted into sobs. When over her mother's shoulder, Rhonda saw them, a girl about her age and a woman about a lavender garment, clearly the style of a Scythe's robe. "Be brave," her mother whispered, desperately into Rhonda's ear. But bravery was about fair away as terror. There simply wasn't enough time to summon either fortitude or fear. All Rhonda felt was sudden tingling extremities, a dreamy disconnect, as if they were watching a scene of someone else's life. She left her mother and moved forward toward the door, and two figures waited. "You wanted to see me?" A slight woman with silky silver hair and stealing grays smiled. Rhonda never considered the Scythe might smile. On rare occasions she encountered them, she always seemed so somber. I don't, but my apprentice does," the woman said, indicating the girl. "But Rhonda, you wouldn't take your eyes off the Scythe. Your apprentice is going to glean me?" "We're not here for gleaning," said the girl. Only after hearing the terror Rhonda would have finally blossom. Her eyes filled with tears. She quickly wiped away as a relief followed in terror's tail. "You could told my mother that." She turned and called her mother. "It's okay. They're not here to glean." She stepped outside, pulling the door closed behind her. No, if she didn't, her mother would eavesdrop on whatever they were about. She had heard the traveling Scythes and show up to people's doors asking for shelter and food for the night, or sometimes they needed information from people or reasons she wouldn't guess at. But why would she specifically want to speak to her? "You probably don't remember me," said the girl, "but we used to go to school together years ago, before you moved here." As Rhonda studied the girl's face, she pulled forth the vaguest of memories and tried to grasp the name. "Cindy something, right? Citra Terranova. Oh, right." And then a moment became awkward, as if standing in a porch of Scythe and apprentice wasn't awkward enough. "So, what can I do for you, your honors?" She wasn't sure the princess warranted the title your honor, but it wouldn't hurt to a little side respect. "Well, here's the thing," said Citra. "Do you remember the day you found in front of the truck?" Rhonda gave a voluntary shift in her shoulders, like I could possibly forget. "After I got it from the rival server, everyone called me Rhonda Roadkill for months. Getting run over by a truck was perhaps the most annoying thing that ever happened to her. She was deadish for 3 whole days, and didn't end up missing every last performance of her dance recital. The other girls said that they did fine without her, which made it worse. The only good thing about it was the food at the revival center on the day they regained consciousness. They had the best homemade ice cream. So good that one splatted just to get another taste of it. But of course, leave it to her parents and didn't send her to cheapo revival center with sucky food. So you were you were there when it happened? Well, here's the thing, Citra said for a second time. Then she took a deep breath and said, "It wasn't an accident. I pushed you." "Ha!" said Rhonda. "I knew it. I knew someone pushed me." At the time, her parents would try to convince her that it was unintentional, that someone might have bumped her. Eventually, she came to believe it. But back in her mind, she always knew a little bit of doubt. "So it was you!" Rhonda found herself smiling. There was victory in knowing that she had been crazy all these years. "Anyway, I'm sorry," Citra said. "I'm really, really sorry." "So why are you telling me now?" "Well, here's the thing," Citra repeated, like the nervous tick. "Being a Scythe's apprentice means I have to make amends for my past choices, and so I wanted to give you a chance to do the same thing for me." She cleared her throat. "I want you to push me in front of a truck." Rhonda guffawed at the suggestion. She didn't even mean to do it, just came out. "Really? You want me to throw you in front of a speeding truck?" "Yes." "Yes. Right now?" "Yes. And your Scythe's okay with that?" The Scythe nodded. "I support Citra entirely." Rhonda considered the proposal. She supposed she could. How many times there was someone in her life she wanted to dispose of, even just temporarily? Just last year, she had come remarkably close to accidentally electrocuting her lab partner in science because he was such an ass. But in the end, she realized that she had a few days vacation she'd have to finish the lab alone. This situation was different. Free revenge ticket. The question was, how badly did she want revenge? "Listen, it's tempting and all," said Rhonda, "but I've got homework and dance class later. So, you don't want to?" "It's not that I don't want to. I'm just busy today. Can I throw you under a truck some other time?" Citra hesitated. "Okay. Or better yet, maybe you could just take me out to lunch or something." "Okay. Just next time, please give us some warning so you don't freak out my mother." Then she said goodbye, stepped inside, and closed the door. "How bizarre," said Rhonda. "What was that all about?" her mother said. And since she didn't want to get into it, Rhonda said nothing important, which irritated her mother just as it intended to. Then she went back to the kitchen where she found ramen had gotten gold. Great. Citra felt both relieved and humiliated at once. For years she had held this secret crime. Her gripe at Rhonda had been petty, as most childhood resentments are, and there was always Rhonda, always spoke of her dancing, the almost most talented ballerina in the world. Citra was in the same dance class, back in magical childhood time, and the little girls nurtured the delusion that they were graceful as they were cute. Rhonda left the pack of disputing Citra, the delusion of those eyebrow rolls and expiration exhales each time Citra took an imperfect step. The push wasn't premeditated. It was a crime of opportunity, and one act had cast a shadow over Citra and hadn't been realized until she faced the girl today. And Rhonda didn't even care. It was the water under a very old bridge. Citra felt stupid about the whole thing. "You realize at the age of mortality you would have been treated much differently," Scythe Curie. Didn't look at her as he spoke. She never looked away from the road she was driving. Citra was still getting used to the old habit. How strange to actually have the path of journey in order to make it. "If it was the age of mortality, I wouldn't have done it," Citra told her in confidence, "because I know she wouldn't be back. Pushing her then was more like gleaning. They had a word for it. Murder." Citra chuckled at their archaic word. "That's funny. Like a bunch of crows?" "I'm sure it was funny at the time." She did a quick maneuver to avoid a squirrel on a winding road. Then Scythe Curie took a rare moment to glance over Citra. When the road ahead straightened, "So, now the penance you've given yourself is to be a Scythe, forever doomed to take the lives of punishment for that childhood hack? I didn't give it to myself, didn't you?" Citra opened her mouth to answer, but then stopped, because the Scythe Curie was right. What if, deep down, Citra accepted the apprenticeship with Scythe Faraday to punish herself for the crime she only cared about? If so, it was only unusually harsh judgment, and she had been caught, or had she confessed, her punishment would have been sort of suspension from school, at most, plus a fine from her parents, and a stern reprimand. It would have been like an upside down. Her schoolmates would have been afraid to cross her. The difference between you and most other people, Citra, is that another person would have not cared once that girl was revived. They would have simply forgotten about it. Scythe Faraday saw something in you. He chose you. Perhaps the weight of the conscience. And then she added, "It was the same weight to let me know that you're lying in conclave." "I'm actually surprised the Thunderhead didn't see me push her," Citra said offhandedly. When Scythe had said something, it began to change reaction in Citra's mind and change everything. "I'm sure it did," she said. "The Thunderhead sees just about everything, and the cameras everywhere. It also decides that if fractions are worth the effort to address and which ones are not." The Thunderhead sees just about everything. It's had a record of practically every human interaction since the moment it became aware. But unlike its mortal days, that knowledge is never abused. Before the Thunderhead achieved consciousness, when it was merely known as the Cloud, criminals and even public agencies would find ways to people's private doings against the law and exploit that information. Every school child knew the information abuses that nearly brought down civilization before the Thunderhead condensed into power. Since that time, there were not been a single breach of personal information. People waited for it. People prophesied doom at the hands of the soulless machine, but apparently the machine had purer soul than any human. He watched the world for millions of eyes, listened for millions of years, and either acted or chose not to act on the countless things that it perceived. Which meant that somewhere in its memory lurked a record of Scythe Faraday's movements on the day life ended. Citra knew it was probably a pointless endeavor to track those movements, but what if Faraday's demise was not the act of self-gleaning at all? What if it was pushed, just as Citra had pushed Rhonda all those years ago? What if... But this wouldn't have been a childish crime at the moment. It would have been securely meditated. If Faraday's death was, to use the word Scythe Curie taught her, murder. As a young man, I marvel at the stupidity of hypocrisy of the mortal age. In those days, the purposeful act of ending human life was considered the most heinous of crimes. How ridiculous. I know how hard it is to imagine what humanity's highest calling once was considered a crime. How small-minded and hypocritical mortal man was, for even they were despised as the elders of life, and though they loved nature, which, in those days, took every human life ever conceived. Nature deemed that to be born an automatic sentence to death, and then brought about death in a vicious consistency. We changed that. We are now a force greater than nature. For this reason, Scythe must be loved as a glorious mountain vista, as revered in a redwood forest, and as respected as an approaching storm. From the Gleaning Journal of H.S. Goddard. Chapter 20. Guest of Honor. I'm going to die. Rowan had begun repeating this to himself like a mantra, hoping it would make it easier to digest. Yet, he seemed no closer to accepting it. Even under different sides, the addicted pronounced the conclave still stood. He would kill Citra at the end of the apprenticeship, or she would kill him. It was too juicy a bit of a drama the Scythes to cancel just because they were no longer apprentices of Scythe Faraday. Rowan knew he could not kill Citra. The only way to avoid the possibility would throw the competition to perform so poorly even now the final conclave that there no choice but to grant Scythehood to Citra. Then, her first honor-bound duty would be to glean Rowan. He trusted she would make it quick, and that she would make it merciful. The trick would not make his failure obvious. He must appear to be doing his best. No one must know of this true plan. He was up to the task. I am going to die. Before the fateful day of the principal's office with Cole Whitlock, Rowan hadn't even known who died. Gleaning has always been at least 3 degrees removed, the relative of someone who knew someone he knew. But over the past 4 months, he had witnessed dozens upon dozens of gleanings firsthand. I am going to die. For 8 more months, he would see his 17th birthday, but not much more. Even though it was his choice, the thought of being another statistic in the Scythe records infuriated him. His life had been a whole lot of nothing. Lettuce kid. He had thought of the label as funny, the badge of honor, but now it was an indictment. This is his life about substance, and now it would end. He should never have accepted Faraday's invitation to be a Scythe's apprentice. He should have just gone an unremarkable life, because then, maybe, just maybe, he might have a chance to do something remarkable with his time. He barely said a word since he got into the car. I'll talk when I have something to say. He rode a Scythe Volta, an off-grid Rolls Royce, perfectly maintained since the age of mortality. The Scythe's yellow robe in stark contrast to the dark earth tones of the vehicle's interior. Volta didn't do the driving. There was a chauffeur. They wove through the neighborhood, and their homes became increasingly larger and the grounds more vast, until residents disappeared entirely behind gates and ivory-covered walls. Volta, one of the Goddard's disciples, had gold and citrine gems embedded in his yellow robe. He was nearly a junior Scythe, just a few years out of apprenticeship. In his early 20s, perhaps, still an age where numbering one's years felt important. His features and skin tone had Afric leaning, and it made a yellow in his garment seem even brighter. So this is one reason why you chose the robes to be a color of piss? Volta laughed. I think you would fit in just fine. Scythe Goddard likes those close to him have sharp as his blades. Why do you follow him? His honest question seemed to bother him even more than the unitary barb. Volta just became the tiny bit offensive. Scythe Goddard is a visionary. He sees our future. I'm much more interested in being part of the Scythedom's future than its past. Rowan turned back to the window. The day was bright and the tinted windows dimmed it, as if they were in the midst of particle eclipse. You glean people by the hundreds. Is that what the future you mean? We have the same quota as all of the Scythes, was all Volta said on the matter. Rowan turned to look at Volta, who now seemed to have trouble keeping eye contact. Who did you train under? Rowan asked. Scythe Nehru. Rowan seemed to recall Faraday chatting with Scythe Nehru during conclave. They appeared to be on good terms. Why does he feel like you're hanging around with Goddard? Well, to you, he's Honorable Scythe Goddard, Volta said, and a bit indignant. And I couldn't care less how Scythe Nehru feels. Old guard Scythes have absolute ideas. There's too set on their ways of the wisdom of change. He spoke of the change as if it were a tangible thing. I think that was it would person strong simply by pushing it. They stopped the pair of the wrought iron gates, which slowly swung open to admit them. Here we are, said Volta. The quarter-mile driveway ended in a palatal estate. A servant greeted them and led them to the mansion. Rowan was immediately assaulted by loud dance music. There were people everywhere. reveling as if it were New Year's Eve. The whole estate seemed to undulate with throes in a relentless beat. People laughing, drinking, laughing, and laughing some more. Some of the guests were Scythes, and not just Goddard's obvious disciples, other Scythes as well. There are also some minor celebrities. The rest seemed to be beautiful people who probably professional party guests. His friend Tiger aspired to be one of those. A lot of kids said that, but Tiger really meant it. The servant led them to the back of a huge pool that seemed more suited to a resort than a home. There were waterfalls, a swim-up bar, and more beautiful people happily bobbing. Scythe Goddard was a cabana beyond the deep end. His front opened the festivities before him. As he attended by more than one fawning bibliothèque, he swore his signal blue royal blue robe. But as Rowan got closer, he thought it was a sheer variation of the one he's worn at Conclave. This leisure robe, Rowan wondered if the man had a diamond-studded bathing suit in his wardrobe as well. "Roman Damish," said Scythe Goddard as they approached. He told the servant passing a tray of drinks to give Rowan a glass of champagne. When Rowan didn't take it, Scythe Volta grabbed one and put it in Rowan's hand before disappearing into the throng, leaving Rowan to fend for himself. "Please, enjoy," said Goddard. "I serve only Dom Perignon." Rowan took a sip, one of the underage Scythe's apprentices who had been marked down for drinking. Then he remembered that such rules didn't apply to him anymore. He took another sip. "I arranged this little botchel in your honor," the Scythe said, gesturing to the party around him. "What do you mean, in my honor?" "Exactly that. This is your party. Do you like it?" The surreal display of the excess was even more intoxicating than the champagne. But did he like it? Mostly he just felt weird, and weirder still to know that he was a guest of honor. "I don't know. I've never had a party before," Rowan told him. It was true. His parents had been so many birthdays by the time Rowan was born, they had stopped celebrating them. He was lucky if they even remembered to get him a gift. "Well then," said Scythe Goddard, "let this be the first of many." Rowan had reminded himself that this man was perfect smile, secreting charisma instead of sweat, was a man who had manipulated him and Citron in mortal competition. But it was hard not to be dazzled by his style, as distasteful as the spectacle was. It was still made his adrenaline flow. The Scythe patted the seat beside him for Rowan to sit. Rowan took his place at the Scythe's right hand. Doesn't the 8th commandment say that Scythe can't own anything but a robe, ring, and journal?" "Correct," said Scythe Goddard brightly. "I am none of these. I own none of this. The food is donated by generous benefactors. The guests are here by choice, and the fine estate has been graciously loaned to me for as long as I choose to grace its halls." Upon the mention of the estate, a man cleaned the pool, looked up at him for a moment, then before turning to his labors. "You should read the commandments," Scythe Goddard said. "You'll find that nothing in them demands that the scythe thin the creature comforts that make life worth living. That bleak interpretation by old guard scythes is a relic from another time." Rowan did not offer any further opinion on the subject. It was Scythe Faraday's humble and serious old guard nature that made his impression on Rowan. He had been approached by Scythe Goddard and enticements of rock star glamour in exchange for taking their lives. He would have declined, but Faraday was dead, and Rowan was here. Looking at the strangers, it was one of his benefit. "If it's my party, shouldn't I have people I know? A Scythe is a friend to the world. Open your arms and embrace it." It seemed Scythe Goddard had an answer for everything. "Your life is about to change, Rowan Damish," he said, waving his arms to indicate the pool and partiers had served as an elaborate spread of food, just a swallow end, and kept being replenished. In fact, it already has. Among the partygoers, a girl who seemed markedly out of place. She was young, 9 or 10 at most, and completely oblivious to the party around her. She frolicked in the shallow end of the pool. "Looks like one of our guests brought their kid to the party," Rowan commented. "That," said Fodder, "is Esme, and you would be wise to treat her well. She's the most important person you will meet today." "How so?" "That chubby little girl is the key to the future, so you better hope she likes you." Rowan would have continued picking at Goddard's enigmatic responses, but the attention was grabbed by the beautiful party girl approaching with the bikini that seemed to have painted on. Rowan realized at the moment too late he was staring. She grinned and blushed and looked away. "Adrian, would you be kind to give my apprentice a massage?" "Yes, your honor," said the girl. Maybe later," Rowan said. "Nonsense," said the Scythe. "You need to loosen up, and Adrian's magical hand, skilled with Swedish technique. Your body will thank you." She took Rowan by the hand and killed any resistance. He rose and let himself be led away. "If our young man is pleased with our efforts," Scythe Goddard called after him, "I'll allow you to kiss my ring." As Adrian led him to the massage tent, Rowan thought, "In 8 months I'm going to die, so perhaps he should allow himself to a little indulgence on the way." "I am disturbed by those who revere us far more than who disdain us. Too many put us on the pedestal, too many long to be one of us, and knowing that they can never be makes their longing even greater. For all sides, their apprentices and the youth. It is either naivety in thinking that somehow a higher order of being and the product of depraved heart, or who the depraved world will reveal a taking of life. For time years ago, there were groups who would emulate and imitate us. They would fashion robes like those of Scythes, wear rings that played similar to ours. For many, it was a costume play, but some actually pretend to be scythes, fooling others, granting false immunity. Everything short of gleaning. There are laws against impersonating workers in any profession, but no law preventing anyone impersonation of a scythe. Since the Thunderhead has no jurisdiction over the scythedom, it cannot pass any laws concerning us. It has foreseen glitch in the separation of scythe and state. However, it was a glitch for long. In the year of Stingray, the 63rd World Conclave, it was decided that all such impostors shall be gleaned on sight, publicly, and most violently. While one might expect such an edict to produce a bloodbath, very few gleanings ever took place. One world got out, and the posers shed their false robes and vanished into the woodwork of the world. To this day, the edict remains, but rarely needs to be invoked, because few are foolish enough to impersonate a scythe. Yet now and again I hear a conclave the rare tale of a scythe coming face to face with an impostor and having to glean them. Usually the conversation is about the inconvenience of it, how Scythe must then track down the imposter's family, grant immunity, and such. And I wonder about the imposter. What is it they hope to achieve? Was it to lure out the forbidden? Were they enticed by the danger of being caught? Or did they simply wish to leave this life so badly that it chose to be few direct paths of annihilation? From the Gleaning Journal of H.S. Curie. It's really hard to say. I mean, at least that's what I think. That's not exactly what I know. But yeah, what I do know is that today we read pages 193 to 211. Next time we will be drinking a drink real quick. And then next time we'll be reading pages 212 to 228, chapters 21 and 22. So base 16 pages tomorrow. That's not bad. Not good. Not bad. But yeah. The reason why I said it's pie, I wanted pie, I don't know if I said this already, is because it's pie today. Pie day. Yippee. But yeah, you know what it is. It's time for Reading Corner of the Day, doing it up Stonsey's way. Bye. Today we are learning about the Bedlington Terrier. Huh. This dog got a big forehead. Or, well, it has so much wool, it looks like it has a big forehead. Makes you wonder why you don't shave it down, but maybe it has an abnormal skull. But before I can make fun of, or have any assumptions on anything, I should learn of its history. Not only does it make me look smarter or more credible in front of my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, and, well, basically whoever the heck I talk to, but it makes me more intelligent. Now, intelligence doesn't necessarily lie in just knowing things. It also lies in knowing things and teaching them to others. Though that is my opinion, and I do hold its solidarity. But, yeah. Without further ado, let's begin. Oh, sorry, wrong intro. Oops. Without further ado, let's learn the history of the Bedlington Terrier. The history of the Bedlington Terrier is that one of the most unusual members of the terrier group is the Bedlington Terrier. It's an English product, hailing from Henny Hills in Northumberland. Its exact origin is obscure. In the late 18th century, the strain in some terriers had developed and became known as Rotten-Threed Terriers. In 1825, Joseph Ainsley of the town of Bedlington bred two of the Rotten-Threed Terriers and christened their offspring the Bedlington Terrier. Occasional crosses of other breeds arguably include the Whippet for speed and Dandy Demont Terrier for coats, and no documented evidence of such crosses exists, and some breed historians assert that the crosses were never made. Whatever the process, the result was an agile game terrier that effective in badger, fox, otter, rats, and even rabbits. By the late 1800s, the breed had stepped into the show ring as well as the homes of more elite. At one time, the liver color was popular, although the blue has since passed into popularity. The Bedlington's lamb-like appearance draws many admirers, but the emphasis on show trimming eventually dampened the breed's popularity as a show dog. With more easily available grooming tools and instructions, the Bedlington has regained much of its popularity with the public. So, it's a show dog, it's a diva. What's the temperament? Is it diva? Is it going to be a diva around my kids? Well, the Bedlington Terrier's temperament is that the Bedlington is among the soft terriers, not only in looks but feel and temperament. It's companionable, demonstrative, and loyal. It enjoys its creature comforts and a fairly quiet house dog. Even though it's seldom initiate a fight, it does not allow itself to be intimidated by other dogs, and it will be a scrappy fighter when pushed. It will give chase to small animals outdoors, but it can easily coexist with them indoors. Ah, that's good. Doesn't say anything about treatment with kids. So, what's the upkeep? How do I keep my Bedlington Terrier, fancy, quiet dog intact? Well, the upkeep of the Bedlington Terrier is that it needs daily exercise in a safe place. It loves to run and chase. Needs to be met with a good long walk or vigorous romp. It's not a breed that would live outside. Its coat needs combing once or twice weekly, plus scissoring in the shape of the coat every other month. Hair that shed tends to cling to the other hair rather than shedding. So if you're a child, please cover your ears. If you're an adult or teenager, listen in, as we're going to be talking about the health of the Bedlington Terrier, and that could mean good things, bad things, etc., etc. So, the major concerns of the Bedlington Terrier in health is copper toxicosis. Minor concerns are retinal dysplasia, renal cortical hypoplasia, and dyschiasis. They're occasionally seen with patellar luxation. The suggested tests are DNA for copper toxicosis, liver biopsy, and eye. Their lifespan is 12 to 14 years. Now, Stonesy, I don't have a kid and I don't got eyes, so I can't see in front of me. So, what's the form? What's the function? Well, the Bedlington Terrier is that this graceful leash dog and distinctive silhouette, his arched loin and racy outline gave it a great speed and agility, a wolf in lamb's clothing. The Bedlington is unraveled in its ability to chase and fight agile but tough quarry. Its gait is light and stringy. Its coat is a mixture of hard and soft hair, standing off the skin, according to good protection as well as outstanding appearance. Now, for the final part of today's episode, the tier list. 5 is the best, 4 is better, 3 is average, 2 is the worst, and 1 is the worst, unless it comes to grooming. Oh god, that's a list. Energy level, exercise requirements, playfulness, affection level, friendliness towards dogs are all out of 3, so average. Friendliness towards other pets is out of 2, lower than average. Friendliness towards strangers is out of 4, so pretty friendly. Ease of training is out of 2. Watchdog ability is out of 5, with the protection ability out of 1. For the first time in the series, we have finally met the worst of the worst of the worst when it comes to grooming requirements, because it's out of 5. This dog is a walking hedge. Not a good thing. Cold and teeth tolerance out of 3, because, no trade-offs. Weight of a healthy male and female Bedlington Terrier is 17 to 23 pounds. The height of the average male Bedlington Terrier is 16.5 inches, and a female Bedlington Terrier is 15.5 inches. Not feet, or else we'd be living in a world of giants. Don't you love it when I say not so giant as it is, blah, and then show you what the next dog is? No. It's a small dog. Small, scruffy dog. And that breed of dog is a terrier breed. Ooh, that's the most I've ever given you guys. But, duh, terrier breed. We're in the terrier section. You guys get it. But, yeah. Hope you guys do a fantastic, wonderful day. Be polite, be efficient. Hope you guys enjoyed today's reading. And I'll see you guys next time.